Hi everyone, my name is Vishali Goyal. I'm a Senior Director within R&D IT in AstraZeneca. And today I'll be sharing a little bit of a personal use case and initiative that we have been striving to do at AZ. It is the Development Assistant. It's an interactive AI agent. And I'll share a little bit about AstraZeneca and then we'll go into the meat and potatoes of this. So AstraZeneca is a biopharmaceutical company. We specialize in putting our patients first. These are our 4 key pillars that we utilize to embody our work. Specifically, we are across therapeutic areas, driving and trying to empower our patients to get the best medications faster. Within AstraZeneca, we have a bold ambition. This bold ambition is by 2030, we will deliver 20 new medicines, be an $80 billion company, and be carbon negative. It's quite the ambition. So this led us down a journey of how can we actually accelerate our pipeline? Should we be utilizing traditional techniques, traditional technology? That's when AI came into the play. At AstraZeneca, we've been looking at a few different options within R&D on how do we actually scale and look at AI, specifically investing in the right foundations. We know that data, again, is necessary in order for these LLMs to actually work and function, right? They're integral in actually keeping these LLMs producing robust outputs. So we actively have invested in and looked at the right foundations across R&D and beyond in AstraZeneca. Number 2, focus on value-driven use cases. We've had a lot of ideation, and it was quite productive ideation, I would say. As most pharma companies, you probably haven't experienced this yourself, or within your clinical settings, you've tried out different POCs. What we were learning at a rapid pace, though, it was kind of being siloed initiatives, which weren't that effective, and we were looking to do something more. So we harped on really that value-driven use cases. So I'm really excited to share a little bit more on Development Assistant because it spans beyond just clinical, but for today, we're focusing on the clinical side. Number 3, people. We know change fatigue is real. I think we've heard it from the wide range of speakers this morning. Bringing people along or adoption was one of the key things that we've had to consider. And it is actually real, and we're seeing it at all systemic levels. So leadership is actively saying, what can we do to move faster? How can we go along this journey? But really, we've invested in some change management practices, as well as some upskilling activities and accreditations that we are also pushing through within AstraZeneca. So let's talk about scaling AI on robust data foundations. So really, at AstraZeneca, we went on this kind of journey looking across the remit at our different platforms. Now, you can imagine, and there was a beautiful slide that kind of showed where data sits. We know our data is kind of segregated in different places. We also know that there's multiple different platforms that we should be looking at. So really, we went back and did an analysis of what processes do we actually want to digitize within R&D. And then how do we want to organize our data? So the specific use case that we'll talk about today, Development Assistant, is really looking at our data products. And I'll give you a little bit more example why we went down that pathway in the next slide. But we also thought about how can we leverage AI in strategically for what activities. So again, we heard this morning a lot about automation and clinical study protocols or writing, or we saw it across the remit. Really, we started to be prescribed in looking at which are the pockets and then thinking about the scale of these. Could they be connected? Should they be separate? And I will say we're still going on that journey in AZ, but I'd like to say we are breaking those boundaries a bit more. So this leads me to what we selected for Development Assistant. We looked at the Drug Development Data Platform, 3DP. Some of you may have heard my other colleagues speak about this, but basically, we looked at which platforms that we had that were building data products. Keeping in mind, these data products are based off of different systems that we do have, right? Whether you think clinical, regulatory, safety, we have a subset of data products that have been available to us. This was strategically selected because of its scalable nature and the fair quality of the data products, which allows it to be extensible. And you could also call it AI ready. Now, some folks may question what's AI ready, but really we were highlighting the I in fair, and we were thinking about how can we actually leverage the data products here to be kind of break those silos. The other thing I would say, our existing platform had already thousands of users. So we knew that there was a gained trust in this platform. Specifically, when you think of security, privacy concerns, that had already been factored in. So we didn't want to start completely from scratch, but we thought about what do we already have and what is already something that we can build on top of. So that led us to the journey of our use case here. I'm going to call it use case, but I will tell you it's more than a use case. It's our mini bold ambition, as I would call it. So, development assistant for clinical trials. What we did was do one agent approach, and I'm going to call it one agent approach. So specifically, we based it on top of our 3DP data platform, which again unlocks all of the data that we have available. We also reduced application development because, again, it was connectable and extensible. The infrastructure underlying it was already there. And then we were able to drive some cost savings because of how fast we can mobilize. And then this would allow us to actually have deeper insights. So traditionally, you would see this with BI tools, or you could build your own type of dashboard off of data products pretty seamlessly. This time, we decided to do it with AI. So in this scenario, I'm going to say I'm a data scientist, director, and I'm looking this is a very simple use case. I'm going to give this example. And we were able to do this in a week, okay? What are the top 5 countries with the most clinical trial sites? And I want to visualize this in a pie chart. Now, for the sake of this, it's going to be a very quick demo that you guys will get to see. The tool has been enhanced since this demo. I do want to share that. But for the purpose of this, you are able to see the top 5 countries. You're seeing the reasoning steps. So what we tried to do is ensure that our users were able to see the reasoning steps in the use case scenario. And you could see from text to SQL, the simplified query that was asked, and you'll start to see it's pulling the data from particular tables. This allows us to be able to triage and do some sort of quality checks as well. And it's verifiable, right? We can go back to the source. We've intentionally exposed it in this scenario for that reason. And as you can see, real quick, you get your results, the data is there, and a pie chart is created. This is our very minimal use case, and I'm going to say that. When we did this, we also thought about what are the key challenges and what can we do to make this better. So one challenge that we saw was related to the common vocabularies. So we love acronyms in life sciences, pharma, consulting, et cetera. We love our acronyms. What we noticed, if we augment the LLM with appropriate controlled vocabulary, and typically you might have this within your company, within your domain, it will always allow you an opportunity to say, well, maybe I can influence the appropriate data product and the LLM this way. So this was one challenge we noticed, and you could see lymphoid leukemia. If we augmented the LLM with appropriate terminology, we would be better enabled to get a more robust outcome. So I'm real quickly going to just talk about our architecture at a high level. So you can see it's kind of similar to what was described in various sessions today. But specifically, an end user would ask a question, and we thought to, again, augment, right, with a controlled vocabulary. And then we also saw point B. We're pretty lazy with our metadata column labeling at times. So we noticed that that was another way of refining and augmenting the LLM. to be able to actually generate the appropriate response to the query. Now, I want to share, this was a high level, this is what we did in a very tangible short period of time. We know that we wanted this to be extensible because we leverage, again, the 3DP data product platform team. Now, keeping in mind, it doesn't just focus on clinical, but there are other domains. So the concept we wanted to be able to expand further. So we knew that we're going to likely want to expand to regulatory, clinical, quality, and other R&D domains. So this one single agent would not be able to handle all of that volume of data. Essentially, you would see more hallucinations and less exact, effective responses coming from your tool or our tool. We also would see performance bottlenecks. We did try it out. I do want to say we tried it out for a brief period of time just to see how it would work. But we knew that it was lagging a little bit and this wasn't sufficient. The other part to this was if you have a complex problem, it's not going to be able to solve the complex problem in the correct way. So what we looked at is actually leveraging Bedrock. So Bedrock enabled us to nicely have a supervisor agent that would now allow us to work with sub-agents. It provided a multi-agent architecture that essentially gives us that flexibility and scalability that we were lacking before, right? So if you think about it, now when a clinical user would submit something into Development Assistant, they would type in their prompt, Amazon Bedrock and the supervisor agent would allow it to direct it into the correct direction. So if we think about it, that prompt would be able to go into from the supervisor agent, it would guide it to the sub-agents and maybe stop at the terminology agent first. And then it would go to the appropriate domains. And again, I do want to call out, we have terminologies that mean different things in different domains. So this is hugely important when we're thinking of cross-domain value chain benefits. So this was a great collaboration that we were able to get started with this, and actually we started to see that multi-benefit across the domains as we're testing this out. So to give you an example, and I won't read the example here, but if you are a data science director and you're looking for insights related to some study, and specifically if you're looking for screen failure, you're looking for some sort of recommendations and also potential issues, and you want some sort of summarization. Here, you would now be able to get not only the data, but you would get some insights as well. So the tool itself will be now able to make a better recommendation for us. And it's even in some ways so beneficial. We have SMEs that are doing the validation. So these SMEs are sitting in the clinical domain and beyond, and they're validating this. They're saying it's really effective. So I do want to call out, we couldn't do this without our SMEs, but them validating the insights, they're saying this is how my persona would react, or this is how I would do this. So this is great. This would normally take them hours to do. So guardrails. So I showed you a little bit about the tool itself. We have a lot of guardrails that we have to factor in. Some things that I'll call out is that we are in production, and I'm happy to say we are in production. This is something that we've been aiming to do. Are the answers correct? It's hugely important for us to have our business engaged, folks in the domain engaged, so we're having them actively validate this tool with us. We've been cautious on this, but cautious with some rigor with them to ensure and fulfill stability, and also have them as advocates. How can I test the changes? We go through rigorous testing processes every sprint. And I'm going to say this, I see the team. We're doing testing every sprint, and then we're also benchmarking it against versions that we've had. So what's next? So as I mentioned, we had from concept to POC to production. We hit production and MVP last year within 6 months, okay? Now, at that point, it may not seem like that big of a deal, but I'm going to tell you, at that point, there was a lot of ideation that was happening, and less tools going into production, more POC development. However, we hit production because we knew we wanted to scale this, and we knew that we wanted to go fast in a sustainable way. So this year, we are planning to expand to other domains. It's actively happening. I can even say I checked in with the team today. It's continuing to go on today. We also are looking to increase our users. We want to expand this out, but we also want that confidence quotient to keep up with this tool. So lessons learned. There was a very strong collaboration with AWS. We couldn't have done this without them. And we were both hand in hand. There were some SMEs that were actively involved in our day-to-day, helping us to guide us through the processes and ensuring that we had different techniques that we could deploy. I've already mentioned about vocabulary and comprehensive metadata. Those are two other areas I think are important, because I know when we talk about our data, it's in various places, it's in various formats, and it's not always in the best shape. Let's be real. So these are active problems we're trying to change as well. And multi-agent architecture. We know this is where the industry is heading, to have flexible, scalable workflows. And we're thinking, again, across value domains, right? What is going to be beneficial? This is one concept. Now, I'm going to say there are many opportunities here, but we think we've nailed it, at least at the start. Okay. So now I've mentioned all the fun stuff with the tech, our bold ambition. I want to make sure that we also cover this key part of supporting people through change. Change fatigue is real, like I mentioned. We have a lot of different things that are coming. I think we were seeing even in the keynote today, there's so much tech, right? What do you zero into? How do you zero into? Should you be adopting it? So within AstraZeneca, we have a multifaceted approach in change management. So I want to say we have actively participated with our HR, our legal, our business groups. And I'll give a shout out also to our AI accelerator teams, some of them who are here today, just to help us move along and follow the correct practices, but also specifically help us share the same narrative, because we all want the same end goal. So going into showcases and spotlights, there are multiple forums that we have within AZ as well to spotlight and showcase the latest tech. And I'm happy to say I've been presenting at many of them, but I think those sessions are really helpful because we also see SMEs in the domain. So many folks have mentioned scientists today that they're working on different things. Maybe there's adoption challenges. We kind of sit with them, show and tell, but we also follow up after, right? We come back to them because we know it's important. And it's not an easy process, I will say. There's a lot of follow-ups, but if you could make just one impact to one person in showing them the tech and technology and then follow back up, think about the impact that you would make. We're trying to do this with all of our tooling. We also have something that we call our AI accreditation program. We have multiple tiers, and this is coming down from top down as well within AstraZeneca. So this is hugely important. You'll actually start to see this. If you have any friends at AZ, be sure to give them a like if they share this on LinkedIn. But we have certifications that are coming out, and we have folks, we're rewarding folks with certificates as long as they complete the curriculum. There's 4 tiers of this. Now, is it going to be perfect? No, but it is going to help the individual actually understand how AI is going to change their life and start to adopt it and utilize it. What I'd also like to say, we are encouraging that lifelong learning. We have senior leaders that are actively making this part of their goals and their daily routine. So I recommend with all of you as well that you spend an hour upskilling, again, at least a day. If you can't do a day, do a week. But this is hugely important because for tools like Development Assistant, we wouldn't have had that concept if we hadn't been thinking about the wider ecosystem and kind of coming together. So this is a lovely quote from one of our product managers, something that I didn't call out quite broadly, What makes us different with our solution is, again, we have worked with our business. So we enlisted product managers from the different business areas, specifically in clinical, and we asked them to utilize the tool, integrate it into their workflows, integrate it into their daily tasks, starting them off small and then going further. But specifically, we're looking for that cross-section between business, IT, and our data in order to drive this mini bold ambition that we were able to achieve here with Development Assistant. I ask that you all consider what can you do within your specific areas in the clinical space, even to drive some value there. Thank you so much for the opportunity to come and present. I am around today. I'm happy to take questions. This is really a big passion project of mine, and on behalf of my team, I did not do this alone, and I want to give them a big shout out, even though they're not here, but they're busy working. So thank you all again, and I appreciate the time today.